Hello guys, I'm Rebel and welcome back to Anybody Can Code Python series. So in the previous tutorial, we have learnt about Python loops, and today we'll be learning about nested loops, which is a continuation of the previous one. So guys, it is better if you go through my previous tutorial using the link in the description box. Now let's get started. So what is a nested loop? So similar to nested statements, nested loops are nothing but one loop inside another loop. Basically, nested loops are used when you want to deal with multiple conditions in a program. So if you see in Python, the two types of loops, for and while, can be nested in the following ways, like a for inside a for and a while inside a while. And interestingly, you can also nest a while inside a for and also a for inside a while. The basic syntax of a nested loop is like this. Here you can see that an inner loop is nested fully inside an outer loop. Well, one of the easiest way to understand nested loops is by solving pattern printing programs. And now we would be solving few of them. For example, let's try to print a pattern like this, half pyramid pattern using stars. So like you can see, there are 4 rows of stars. So to print 4 rows, let's introduce a for loop for I in range 1, 5, so that it runs from 1 to 4 as the last element is always neglected. And then to print the stars, if you observe, in the first line there is only 1 star and in the second line there are 2 stars, and it increments as such line by line. So to print the stars in this manner, let's introduce another for loop for j in range. This ranges from 0 to I. And then inside this inner for loop, let's print the stars. So what actually happens here is, when the outer loop enters for the first time, I becomes 1 and j will become 0, so that it will print just only 1 star in the first line. And again, when it enters for the second time, I will become 2 and j will range from 0 to 1, thereby printing 2 stars. And again, when it loops back and enters for the third time, I will become 3 and j will range from 0, 1 and 2, thereby printing 3 stars. So that is how the stars get printed in an increasing order. And finally, you have to print a new empty line in the outer for loop so that the stars get printed line by line. So now let's run this. The stars got printed in the correct manner. So you can see that the half pyramid got printed correctly. So that is how nested for loop works. So the same pattern can be implemented using nested while loops. So you guys can try it out, and if you get stuck anywhere, refer to the link below where you can see that the same program has been solved using nested while loops. Now let's try to print a pattern like this, Inverted Holo Pyramid Pattern. So here, if you compare the previous pattern with this pattern, in the previous pattern you can see that the number of stars in each row were ranging from 1 to 5. But here it's just the opposite. So to print the stars in each row, which ranges from 5 to 1, let's use a for loop for I in range 5, 1 and decrement it by 1. Now to print the stars, let's introduce a while loop that ranges from 1 to I. J is equal to 1 while j less than or equal to I. So if you look at this pattern, only in the first line you can see that the stars are printed fully, and in the remaining lines, only in the first position and in the last position the stars are printed, and in between those you won't find any. Instead, the stars have been replaced with spaces. So you can see that there are 3 conditions used here. such as printing only the first line fully with stars. Printing only the first and last position with stars. Printing spaces in between them. Firstly, let's consider only this part. So here we only want the first line to be fully filled with stars. So for that, let's introduce a counter variable, count, and assign it to 0. And here we have to check whether count is equal to 0 or not. So if this becomes true, print the stars. And don't forget to increment the variable that we use in the while loop, j plus equal to 1. So with this, the first line will get printed, and finally increment the count variable by 1 so that the if condition fails and it stops getting displayed. Now let's go to the second condition. So here we'll use an elif statement where we'll check whether j is equal to 1 or j is equal to I. So here 1 represents the first position and I represents the last position. So if it is true, print the stars. So only when these two conditions fail, the spaces must get printed. So let's use an else statement to print the space. So you need to increment the variable that we use in while in every condition, j plus equal to I. And finally, print an empty new line so that the stars get printed line by line. Now let's run this. So the star in the last line alone is missing. I think I would have made some mistake in the for loop. So I guess it must range from 5 to 0 so that 5 rows get printed. So let's run this and check. As you just saw, this inverted holo pattern got printed by nesting a while inside a for. And similarly, you can try implementing the same pattern by nesting a for inside a while. So that is all for today. We'll be learning about control statements in the next tutorial. So stay tuned and see you all in the next.
Hey YouTube, how are you doing? Stay tuned to Facebook for more awesome videos. Don't forget to subscribe.